You've seen Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, but do you know all of these behind-the-scenes things? Even Easter eggs. So in Tom Riddle's childhood bedroom, there was a photo that leads to what happens later on in the movie. Or did you know Maggie Smith, during the filming of Half-Blood Prince, was also fighting breast cancer? Or did you know there was a character that unfortunately was tragically murdered before the premiere of the movie that he was in? These are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So let's get started with 35 things that you probably didn't know about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Bonnie Wright not only played Ginny Weasley in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince as the future love interest of Harry throughout the movie, but she also played a role as the art director and was responsible for decorating the Weasley household. After 6+ years of being a Weasley, she probably understood the character pretty well. Did you know that the little orphan boy that Dumbledore goes to meet actually has a connection with the older version of Voldemort? Not just being Tom Riddle, yes, but Hero Fiennes Tiffin is actually the nephew of actor Ray Fiennes, who plays Voldemort. So that is why they looked so similar. We talked about this in the introduction, but Maggie Smith, who played Minerva McGonagall, of course, during the filming of Half-Blood Prince, was undergoing chemotherapy treatment for her breast cancer.
Why is it when something happens, it is always you three?
Which ultimately won, and may she rest in peace, was able to live another 15 years. At the introduction, we also talked about the tragic passing of one of the actors before the premiere of the movie. Robert Knox unfortunately never got to see his movie premiere as Marcus Belby because he was tragically murdered days before the premiere.
And what about your uncle, Belby? For those of you who don't know, Marcus's uncle invented the wolfsbane potion. Is he working on anything new?
Don't know. Me and my dad don't get on. Probably because my dad says potions are rubbish. His only potion worth having is a stiff one at the end
Which
of the day.
is not a fun fact for anyway, but it did happen, and unfortunately he was not able to reprise his role in the later films. Though Slughorn, played by Jim Broadbent, was giving Draco Malfoy the cold shoulder the entire movie of Half-Blood Prince, they actually knew each other from The Borrowers. And because of that, Jim referred to Tom Felton the entire movie as P. Green, which was his name in the movie. Small little addition to that, the actor who played Arthur Weasley, Mark Williams, was also in that movie. So fun little connection that the actors all have. If you enjoy these fun facts and Easter eggs, make sure to like and subscribe for more, because that's just what we're going to be doing, is fun facts, news, all sorts of stuff. If you like learning new stuff about old Harry Potter or new stuff about new Harry Potter stuff, like that's what we do here. So make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I post new stuff. So let's get back to the fun facts. So we talked about in Order of the Phoenix that Helen McCrory was actually supposed to play Bellatrix Lestrange, but was pregnant during filming of Order of the Phoenix, so unfortunately had to step down from the role, which then allowed Helena Bonham Carter to become Bellatrix Lestrange. Well, before they decided to give the role of Narcissa Malfoy to Helen McCrory, they were thinking about giving it to Naomi Watts. But they decided to ultimately go with Helen McCrory as Narcissa Malfoy, and Naomi Watts did not get the role, of course. So in Half-Blood Prince, you have the weirdly wet, creepy man who stands in the background and never really gets referenced. He's just kind of there and for some reason always looks wet and greasy. Well, that character is Fenrir Greyback, played by Dave Lagano, who is actually known for his prowess as a cage fighter. Unfortunately, we really didn't get to see him do much fighting in this movie. We do see him tackle Lavender Brown in Deathly Hallows Part 2, but he's just kind of the creepy, wet, greasy guy in the background for most of this movie. Those who have read the Half-Blood Prince book know that the book opens with a chapter called The Other Minister, where we get faked out a little bit when we meet Cornelius Fudge to find out that no, he's actually been replaced by Rufus Scrimgeour. And this scene was originally going to be in Half-Blood Prince. They cast Bill Nighy as Rufus Scrimgeour and everything, but ultimately decided to remove that scene and just have him be in Deathly Hallows Part 1, which Bill Nighy did a fantastic job in, and I'm kind of sad we didn't get to see him in Half-Blood Prince. Though more than one actor played Lavender Brown throughout the Harry Potter series, her role in Half-Blood Prince was far more important than just having a background extra that they named Lavender Brown. And over 7,000 girls tried out for the role of Lavender Brown, and it ultimately went to Jessie Cave after she had a 5-hour improvisation session with Rupert Grint, which won her the role because they had such great chemistry, which meant nothing for the movie because Lavender Brown is a horrible character Ron wasn't good for her, and she was not good for Ron. So there's a scene in Half-Blood Prince where you have Harry and Ginny sitting on a couch together, and she offers him a minced meat pie. Well, the scene was already awkward enough because there was no chemistry between the two of them, but they also had Ron come in and sit between them, which made the scene even more awkward because, of course, he's sitting in between the couple who's maybe trying to form. But this scene took 20 takes for them to do because Rupert and Daniel just could not stop laughing because of how awkward the scene was. And I get it. I would probably uncomfortably laugh the entire time as well. So we all have heard accounts of Daniel Radcliffe absolutely detesting the Quidditch scenes because it would require him to sit for long hours on a fake broomstick surrounded by green screen and nothing happening otherwise. Well, Rupert Grint absolutely loved filming the Quidditch scenes. This is one of his favorite parts. But granted, he spent 5 movies before this not getting to do Quidditch scenes, so I'm sure he was looking forward to finally getting to be the Quidditch hero, because as we all know, Weasley is our king. Though Half-Blood Prince is not everybody's favorite movie, it also wasn't Daniel Radcliffe's favorite performance either. He almost decided to give up on the Harry Potter series after this movie because he said his performance in this role for Half-Blood Prince was very one note and just his weakest performance that he had ever given. But after almost 10 years of playing the same character, I'm sure he was getting a little bit burnt out of it. Hopefully, they have figured out how to make sure that our young child actors for the HBO reboot do not go through the same problem. Every time David Yates, the director of Half-Blood Prince and future iterations of the Harry Potter movies, got the scene that he perfectly wanted, he would jump around like a 5-year-old boy. And this is according to Tom Felton. Tom Felton was like, yeah, every time he would get the shot he wanted, David Yates would just dance around and jump around and yippee himself, which is fun. At least he enjoys the craft and had a vision in mind. I'm not a huge fan of the David Yates style in the Harry Potter series, but, to each their own. He did what he needed to do, which was make the Harry Potter movies. Hopefully, the TV series will have a little bit more of a consistency in its style. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince cost $250 million for them to make, which marks it as one of the highest budgets for a film during that time. But this goes to show that Warner Brothers had a lot of faith in the series, in the fact that they were willing to break records on how much money they would spend in the series because they knew it would do so well. Warner Brothers' $250 million bet that they put towards the Harry Potter and Half-Blood Prince paid off in the first weekend when it grossed $394 million in the opening weekend. 3 days, $394 million. People were looking forward to this. It continued to make money after that, but they made all of their money back in the first 3 days of the movie being out in theaters, which is great because some movies that have come out now are barely making $394 million their whole run in the box office, and they cost way more than $250 million. One thing that all fans hate is a delay. And being told that Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince was going to be delayed from 2008 to 2009 ruffled quite a bit of feathers with the fandom. So much so that Warner Brothers received death threats if they didn't release Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Which, mind you, I think is a bit extreme, but I get it. I was looking forward to the movie too. Did I know at the time of release that it was being delayed for a year? No, not at all. I didn't really follow the movie news until it was like, hey, the movie's coming out. And I'm like, hey, cool, I'm excited. So, awesome. Movie came out, it was a box office success. That's what matters at the end of the day. But also, don't threaten studios just because you're not getting what you want right at the time you want. Doesn't get anywhere. Just put you in jail. Stop it. So we've talked about the budget of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince being $250 million. Well, part of that is probably because they had to build 80 different sets. It's a lot of sets to build, and that's a lot of money to spend. So 80 different sets, probably had to pay Rufus Scrimgeour for just existing at the time because they didn't put him in the movie, but 80 different sets, and also used 1,500 special effects, which there was a lot of magic casting, there was potions and all that. So physical and CGI, probably a lot of money put into making Half-Blood Prince work the way it was supposed to. Did it work? You tell me. I'm not the biggest fan of Half-Blood Prince, as I've probably made clear, but expensive movie, expensive sets. The scene where Harry and Dumbledore arrive to find the cave where the locket is stored takes place in the caves of Moher. Filmed in the Harry Potter series outside of the UK, which makes sense. And probably also makes sense on why it cost $250 million to make this movie, because on location filming is very expensive, and that is why in Order of the Phoenix, to save money, they decided to go with practical sets than on location. Though the cliffs of Moher were filmed on location, the cave within the cliff was all CGI. It was all set in CGI. And not on location. Of course, there was not a secret cave within the cliffs of Moher that nobody's ever seen that has a secret underground lake where there are a bunch of dead bodies. Though that would be creepy, it's a CGI set within the cave, which is okay. I'd prefer not to have a weird, creepy serial killer cave full of dead bodies in a lake. That may or may not have been Voldemort's kills or just already there. We don't know about that one. So one of the first scenes filmed in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince was the Millennium Bridge being destroyed by Death Eaters. The only issue with it being destroyed is it hadn't been built yet in the Harry Potter universe. While the bridge was built in 2000, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince technically takes place in 1996. So they destroyed a bridge that didn't exist. There was a bridge that was destroyed in 1996 that was used as the reference point for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, but unfortunately, that bridge doesn't exist, and the Millennium Bridge just looked cooler with its destruction for the movie, so that's why they used it. Though John Williams composed the main Harry Potter themes that we hear throughout the entire Harry Potter series, specifically da 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 da, that's enough for me. Nicholas Hooper composed the music for Half-Blood Prince, which added a certain mysterious element to it, and also added more emotional depth to the different scenes throughout the movie, which John Williams kind of didn't have in the first two movies where he composed the score, because they were more happy and less downtrodden. Ultimately, the choices that David Yates made when directing Half-Blood Prince did pay off, where the movie was nominated for an Academy Award and several BAFTA awards. Did they win? No, but sometimes a nomination is almost as good as a win, because not everybody got nominated, so still in the top, just not the top of the top. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, there are 27 owls that make an appearance throughout the movie, but each of those 27 owls had 3 doubles, so that if, the owl was not cooperating, they would bring in an owl that looked exactly like that one, so hopefully the scene could continue. So yes, there were 27 owls, but it was 27 times 3, which means there were 81 owls in total used for the movies, which is absolutely crazy. That is a lot of owls. You could almost say it was a peck of owls. A pack of owls, I mean. Potions play a very significant role within Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And some of the potions that we see in the movie are actually practical potions.
Merlin's beard.
They're not actual potions, but the effects that we see of the bubbling and all that are practical. They were actually remote controlled, so, different things would happen depending on what remote was used. Which is kind of cool that it wasn't just, hey, we're going to add CGI bubbles to that empty pot. It was actually like, hey, we have colored liquid in there, which is being controlled and jiggling and bubbling and smoking via remote control, which is cool. Plus, we also know from Chamber of Secrets, most of the time the potions that we see are just actually some sort of beef stew or broth. So makes it even cooler, because you could actually probably drink those potions. Would I recommend it? Probably not. They've been sitting on a set for about a couple hours and probably don't taste good. So in the fourth movie, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the Dark Mark was a more important centerpiece for the movie. But in this movie, they had to do so many dark marks for all the Death Eaters that we see that it was just a stick-on tattoo. So ironically enough, even though in the books we never see that Draco Malfoy has a dark mark and just acts like he might be a Death Eater, in this movie, he's just got a stick-on tattoo, so he's just pretending to be a Death Eater and doesn't actually have a real dark mark, but I get it. It's a lot easier to just stick it on and have it for a day, wash it off easily, than sitting in a makeup chair for probably hours while they try to paint on a dark mark every day, where you do a stick-on tattoo that takes 5 minutes. Makes sense. So there's a scene in the Weasleys' house where we see knitting without a person, just 2 needles knitting themselves and making a scarf or a Weasley sweater probably. Well, that was all practical. Those were controlled by robot arms, and it was actually David Yates' mother that they used as the base for the knitting. They said, hey, you're knitting. We're just going to film it and use practical effects to make the knitting actually happen, which is really cool that, you know, they didn't have to do that. They could have made that all CGI, but it's real. It was actually knitting a sweater because they trained the robot to knit the sweater based on David Yates' mother. Luna Lovegood, everyone's favorite character, is the most unique character in the Harry Potter series. One of the more unique things that she wore in this movie was her Christmas tree dress. The dress took over 2 months to design and make to have it be perfect and not look really weird. And of course, Evanna Lynch pulled it off once again with her just performance as Luna Lovegood. She is going to be a very hard person to replace, but I'm sure we will find the perfect Luna Lovegood once again. Evanna Lynch embodied her character of Luna Lovegood so much that she designed most of the accessories that Luna wore throughout the movie series. We talked about Order of the Phoenix, where she designed her radish earrings, but in this movie, she not only designed her lion head that she wore for the Quidditch game,
Is it a tonic?
but she also designed her rabbit corsage that she wore for Slughorn's party. Why the rabbit? Because the hare is her Patronus. So she took her Patronus and designed a corsage for her to be able to wear, which just shows how much that Evanna Lynch knew about her character. One of the questions that gets brought up a lot was, how did Dumbledore know about this random cave that Voldemort was hiding a Horcrux within? Well, if you read the books, you would know that he was told about it by the headmistress of the orphanage. But in the movie, there is a subtle Easter egg in the background of that flashback that gives it away. And that's a picture of a cliff. It's the exact cliff that we see from the angle of the camera when Dumbledore and Harry show up, which is a weird angle to be on. Like, how did he get that picture? But by and by, that is what gave Dumbledore the clue that he needed to check that out. Because why would young Tom Riddle be so infatuated with that cave that he has a picture of the cliff that they went on trips to? Because he's hiding a Horcrux there eventually. So a scene that is not in the books, but is in the movie, is just a slight line change when Hermione is smelling Amortentia. She talks about how she smells fresh paper and fresh cut grass. And in the book, she goes silent. But in the movie, she says spearmint
For
toothpaste.
example, I smell freshly mown grass and parchment and spearmint toothpaste.
Which most people just kind of like, haha, she likes books and grass and toothpaste. Whatever, she's a weirdo. But there's a scene earlier in the movie where she tells Ron that he's got toothpaste on his face.
Got a bit of toothpaste.
Which, in the books, it kind of hints that she smells something that's familiar to her with Ron, and we don't have to... we can put it together. But in the movies, they had to kind of spell it out a little bit more to us, but it's a reference to her liking Ron, which is kind of the major underlying plot point with them throughout the movie. She likes Ron likes her, but she doesn't tell Ron gets with Lavender, and then at the end, they do kind of get together. Happy endings all around, but that's just kind of what it hints at. Just a little hint that, you know, if you read the books, you're like, I get it. If you're watching the movies, you're like, interesting. A running joke throughout Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is that Slughorn just doesn't care about anybody that doesn't benefit him. And Ron is one of those people that he just doesn't pay attention to, and the fact that he always calls Ron the wrong name. But there is a point where he actually calls Ron by his real name and calls him Rupert, which is kind of funny because his name is actually Rupert. So just a fun little Easter egg in there that, you know, blink and you miss it because you're like, it's funny. He calls him by the wrong name constantly. But what's more funny is that he calls him by his actor's name. But I guess it's still better than being called P. Green, right? So one of the practical effects that they used was when Ron was poisoned and started foaming at the mouth.
Ron!
He actually was foaming at the mouth, but luckily it wasn't because he was poisoned. It was because he had a mouthful of egg whites that, of course, when pushed through your teeth and your mouth, probably foam up and look kind of like you're dying. So he could have been poisoned by salmonella, but he wasn't actually poisoned. Luckily, Harry shoved a bezoar down his mouth and saved his life. Every Harry Potter movie from Prisoner of Azkaban on kept getting just a little bit darker, and this movie was no exception. Half-Blood Prince really had to set up how dark and miserable Deathly Hallows was going to be. So of course this movie did what it was supposed to do and is one of the darkest movies in the Harry Potter series at that point. It was darker than the last one. And this one is definitely the one that does not have a happy ending. It is Dumbledore's dead. Voldemort wins this book. He doesn't even really show up in this book, and Voldemort wins. Snape gets away. He just killed Dumbledore. We thought he was a good guy, so we lost one of our most powerful potion makers who we thought was a good guy. And what is going to happen? Is the school going to close? Is Voldemort going to win? Well, we'll have to wait to find out. All right, well, that is it. That is so many fun facts and little mini fun facts throughout the other fun facts. So let me know, did you know all of these? I don't think you did. If you did, that's awesome. Do you have more? Make sure to put in the comments because I would love to know more. These were just the ones that I thought were interesting that I figured a lot of people didn't know. Make sure to like and subscribe, and as always, stay marvelous and Nox.